everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you some leopard print cards that I made using one of the ATC size stencils from the set of 9 called Desert Sights. These are my designs that came out recently. You can purchase this stencil at StencilGirlProducts.com. I will put a link below the video. But when I was making things with these stencils to show when it first came out last month sometime, I said in the video that one of the stencils that I had designed to look like the rocks that are in my yard. You know, my entire yard here in Tucson, Arizona is gravel, rocks, and desert plants. There's not any grass or anything. And I thought that they looked cool, so I had designed this stencil based on that. And I said, oh, it looks like you could make something leopard print with this stencil. And of course, since I said that, people said, oh, we want to see that. So here I am fulfilling that request, and I'm going to be using it to make 4 different cards with 4 different techniques, some different techniques, different ways you could use it. But the stencil, of course, is a set of 9 ATC size stencils, all on one big piece that you can cut apart. And I've cut them apart and put them on a little screw together key ring thing to keep them together. And so the size is like 3.5 by 2.5, and I'm making greeting cards that are 5.5 by 4.25 to fit an invitation size envelope. So here in the United States we call that A2. In Europe it's not the same, and I'm not exactly sure which one it is. So I will just tell you they're invitation size envelopes, 5.5 by 4.25. So I do need to move the stencil around a little bit because the stencil is smaller than that, but it still works. This first one I used Distress Oxide inks in Fossilized Amber, Wild Honey, Orange Marmalade, and then I used Walnut Stain as the top. So I kind of blended the yellows and oranges together on the card first with a blender, and then I stenciled on the brown spots. Leopards, of course, are a jungle cat that has kind of a tawny yellow-brown fur with black spots. But you can leave it up to your interpretation. That's what I did with this. I could have made black spots. I also added some white acrylic paint over the top to give it kind of like a highlight in places. I should have done this with white ink, but my one white ink pad is it's broken, and so I need to get something else that will make an opaque white ink situation work. But I can always just use acrylic paint, and I'm very familiar with that. It's very opaque, so I was cool with that. I have the stamp set that's an old one from Stampin' Up. I'll find it on eBay for you and put a link below. I'll also put a link to the stencil that you can purchase off StencilGirl Products. And this stamp set's cute. It's got some wild safari animals, and so I decided to use the little leopard, and I stamped it with black archival ink and then colored it in with some alcohol markers in a few different colors. And then I put that on the card, and then I had a little die cut that said hello, as cut out of white cardstock. And I decided to make that brown to match, so I'm just using the ink pads again. First the oxide, and then I thought it was too light, so I used a Vintage Photo regular distress ink over the top to make it a little bit darker. And I glued that on the card, and I added some jute twine, because it just seemed right, kind of rustic twine. And some little white dots, highlights on the leopard, and I was done with that one, the first one. So here's some close-ups of it for you. Simple card, just inks and a little bit of stamping and a die cut, I guess. Some different colors of cardstock that I had on hand. So then I decided I wanted to try the stencil with, of course, my gel plate. And I first started out with this small gel plate. This one is, I think it's 3x5. And I am stenciling on the spots in black, carbon black, with a sponge and some fluid black ink, golden, I think that's golden fluid, carbon black. And then I got out, I think it was dialoride yellow and yellow oxide fluid acrylic to brayer over the top of that. You should let it dry just a bit. I'm in a hurry, so I'm not as good. And then I pulled some of that wet paint off and went over it again with white just to get that kind of variegated color that you would get on a furry animal, right? It would not be just flat colors. So I ended up with two different pieces. One of them is on rice paper, and then this one is on cardstock. And I trimmed it down. I got myself some kind of dull black layer and then a craft colored card, folding that in half. It's just half of a sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock to make a card. And then a little bit more tearing and trimming, layering this up. And I decided when I was looking at my stamp set that had the leopard that it also could be giraffe print, because giraffes are kind of the same color, right? Yellowy, tawny browns and black with spots. I thought it could also go with a giraffe as well from the stamp set. So I decided to put the giraffe on. This giraffe is super cute, and what I've done the most with it is make baby cards because you can put little buttons on the bottom of the feet and make it look like a rolling toy. So I've made a lot of baby cards with it, but it's cute. It's a cute stamp set. I'm quite sure that it's discontinued, however, because everything that I have from Stampin' Up! At this point is discontinued a long time ago. So I put that same dull black layer on that. I colored it up with the same alcohol markers as the first card. The giraffe is stamped with the permanent ink, the archival ink. And then I grabbed another stamp that can go across the bottom in a different color, kind of yellow oxide colored cardstock, and put the word thank you across the bottom. I use a ton of thank you cards, so that's usually what I make just because, yeah, I need a lot of them. A lot of people to thank in my life. That's the kind of card that I send the most, I guess. So I like to stock up. So there's that one with the little giraffe and the gel printed paper. If I'd let that black dry a little bit longer, it would have been more distinct. So then I grabbed a different gel plate. This one is bigger, so it can cover an entire layer. That other 3x5 was kind of narrow. I decided to play with some alcohol inks. I got out some different colors, mushroom and oregano, and I think currant. I can't remember what the yellow one was, yellow gold one, and some white from Pinata. And I'm just, I got the stencil on there. I'm going through the stencil. I'm just messing around. You can always use your alcohol inks on your gel plate. It's not a problem. And I do want to say again, I've said this to you before, but somebody commented today how worried they were about some marks that were left on their gel plate that hadn't come off with cleaning. Remember, guys, a gel plate is a tool. It's just like a hammer or a screwdriver or any kind of tool. You don't worry about those things getting dirty. As long as they are functioning in the way that they're supposed to function, if it's stained or dirty, you don't care, right? I mean, my hammer's rusty. It still hammers. I can still ham with it. So don't stress out if you get some stains. In fact, you can see from this gel plate that I'm using right now that it stains on its own. It will eventually turn yellow. Just because it does. That's, It's just a tool. It's a piece of silicone. It's not something that's precious. You don't need to clean it every time. You don't need to worry about getting stains on it. The only thing you do need to worry about is getting pits. You know, laying it on top of something else and making it get a hole in, or not a hole, but, well, I mean, yeah, obviously you don't want to put holes in it, but it'll get divots in it sometimes from it if it lays over the top of something else. So you want to keep it flat when it's being stored. But other than that, if it gets stained, don't stress. Just don't stress. You can clean with baby oil. You can clean with soap and water. You can clean with hand sanitizer. But all of those things may not get it completely unstained. So just don't worry about it. So now I've taken a piece of scratch paper where I was rolling off some of the paint, and you saw the print that I made by pulling up the alcohol ink off the plate with some. This is iron oxide light, I think, was the name of the color. It's a weird color. It's kind of a Caucasian skin tone color, but also not. It's even more of a beige, maybe. I don't know. It's a weird color. I like it. So then with this extra scrap where I had rolled off some of the paint when I was gel printing, I just went over that with some micaceous iron oxide and some copper through the stencil and made a little piece that I could draw on. You can see the pattern on the print that I pulled, but it's not super clear, but it's still there, and it kind of almost looks like maybe a piece of stone or something. It's very interesting. You could also make some types of stone prints with this particular little stencil. It's just, I can see it's very versatile, a lot more than I expected. So I drew the same shape of that leopard on the back of this piece of deli paper and then cut it out, and I want to put it on the card. I just wanted something a little bit bigger, so I drew it myself. So if you don't have the stamp, you don't have to stress. You can always draw. You could find a picture of a leopard and put it on there. You could find a picture of a leopard, trace it. You could use so many different ways of finding that type of a shape. It's not a problem. Or you could just not put the leopard shape on at all and just let the print speak for itself. So I found a piece of burlap that's been dyed black, and I thought that natural type of a fiber might be interesting on the card. So I trimmed it down to the right size, gluing it down with some tacky glue, and then I glued that little shape that I cut out of the leftover deli paper right onto the top of that burlap using the same tacky glue, craft glue. A little bit tricky, but works. And that way it was kind of like a silhouette. And then I mounted this on a colored layer and then onto a tan or craft colored card. And I think that's pretty cute. I got out some sequins that were copper, black, and silver, picking out of a pack of ones that someone sent me in Happy Mail, and glued those on the spots, and then that gives a little bit of bling, and I thought it added some attitude to my shape to have those little blingy spots on there. And that is my third leopard print card using alcohol inks on the gel plate. So I did regular oxide, distress oxide inks, then I did acrylic paint, and then I did alcohol ink on there, and now I'm going to do something even crazier. See the sequins? I think that makes the card right there. Sorry about the thread that's on there. I need to pull it off, but hey, you know, got to get this video done. Got to get my pictures taken and video done. So now I got the gel plate again, and I'm going to show you that you can do leopard print without it being the colors of a leopard. Of course, it's December and it's coming up on Christmas season and people are making their Christmas cards. Why not make a leopard Christmas card? Why not? Just make it red and green, and then suddenly it's still leopard print, but it's Christmas. because you know these things occur to me as I'm working. So I started with a couple different colors of acrylic paint that are greens, a dark green and a lighter green. And then I went over the top, offsetting slightly. I remembered where I put the stencil so that I could offset just a little bit of the pattern and go over it with some titanium white. I'm using the same sponge, so it's getting to be a little bit green, but you get the idea. And then I'm going to pull that print with some red acrylic to pick it up. Like you do. Should let it maybe rest a little bit longer to dry, but I am always impatient, so I never do. It's just the way I am. So then I end up with red and green leopard print card. So here's a green piece of cardstock, a little bit of red, and then my print. I decided to go around the edges with white to make kind of a frosty look. And so I got out some more white acrylic paint again and a sponge, went around the edges of my card pieces with the white. It'd be super great if I had some opaque white ink, but I don't. So I'm using acrylic paint, which I'm drying in between just so that it doesn't make too much of a mess. I'm prone to make a mess anyway, but so I put that on the card, put the other printed layer on the card. And then I have another piece of this red cardstock. I'm going to floof that up around the edges, and then I'm going to get out my stamp again and stamp it in green. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Whoever requested it, I'm happy to fill your request. And I hope you got some inspiration or ideas from this for using my little stencil from StencilGirl Products. Again, I will put it in a link below to that stencil so you can find it. This time I used VersaFine Clair to do my stamping, the word celebrate, and my little leopard. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment or question below, subscribe if you haven't already, turn on your notification bells, and you can share this if you want to. I'm not getting much interaction on my videos, so please remember to do that. My channel is dropping like they always do when I take a break. You know, for a week and a half I was gone, and now it's like dropped down to half. So anyway, to finish it up, I drew a little Santa hat and a red ribbon on the top of my little leopard to make him more festive, using Posca pens, which of course are opaque acrylic ink, so I can write on the top of this VersaFine Clair. And I also added a little bit of glitter glue in an iridescent color to make it sparkle a little bit. And that is my leopard print Christmas card. So thanks for watching. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.